Live from New Delhi, you're watching DT India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Nipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Hurricane Melissa causes extensive damage after making landfall in Jamaica, leaves destruction and threat of floods in its wake, hurtling towards Cuba as Category 4 storm. Israel launches airstrikes on Gaza after Netanyahu orders powerful attacks. Both sides trade blames as Israel claims Hamas attacked troops, violating truce. Donald Trump heads to South Korea, where an all-important meeting with Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping may decide the future course of trade war. North Korea's missile test ratchet up tensions. Rio de Janeiro police launches their biggest ever raids on the city's drug traffickers, kills at least 64 in warlike scenes. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi, to address the Maritime Leaders Conclave in Mumbai, will also chair the Global Maritime CEO Forum, focus on uniting oceans, one Maritime Vision. And on to the details now. Hurricane Melissa is heading towards Cuba as a powerful Category 4 storm after crossing Jamaica as the strongest storm to ever hit the Caribbean nation in modern history. Even as the hurricane's worst moved on, Prime Minister Andrew Holness declared the island a disaster area, and authorities warned residents to remain sheltered over continued flooding and landslide risk as dangerous weather persisted. Melissa struck land near Jamaica's southwestern town of New Hope, packing maximum sustained winds of 185 meters per hour. The U.S. National Hurricane Center said in an advisory well above the minimum strength of a Category 5 storm, the most powerful level on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Also, the scale of Melissa's damage in Jamaica wasn't yet clear, as a comprehensive assessment could take days and much of the island was still without power, with communications network badly disrupted. The hurricane was the worst to ever strike Jamaica, hitting land with maximum wind speeds even more potent than most of recent history's most brutal storms, including 2005's Katrina, which ravaged the U.S. city of New Orleans. The still powerful Melissa was set to hit Cuba as soon as Tuesday night and later the Bahamas. Cuban authorities said they evacuated about 500,000 people. In the Bahamas, next in Melissa's crosshairs, the government ordered further evacuations for people living in southern parts of the archipelago. Nearby, Haiti and the Dominican Republic have faced days of torrential downpours, leading to at least 4 deaths. And Israeli planes launched strikes in Gaza on Tuesday after Israel accused Hamas of violating a ceasefire in the Palestinian territory. Now, this is the latest test of a fragile deal brokered earlier this month by U.S. President Donald Trump. Defense Minister Israel Katz accused Hamas of carrying out an attack against Israeli forces in an area of the enclave that is under Israeli control. Well, a statement from Israel said Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered powerful strikes on Gaza. Both sides have accused each other of ceasefire violations. Also, the issue flared up and Netanyahu said Hamas had violated the ceasefire by turning over some wrong remains in the process of returning the bodies of hostages to Israel. Israeli Forensics said the remains handed over on Monday belonged to Ofer Zarfati, an Israeli killed during Hamas' October 7, 2023 attack. Zarfati's remains had already been partially retrieved by Israeli troops during the conflict.
Israel received the remains of a deceased hostage from Gaza, and following the identification process, it was determined the partial remains belonged to Ofer Zarfati, a 27-year-old who was murdered in Hamas captivity after being kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival. The IDF rescued his body from Gaza in November of 2023, where he was later buried in Israel by his family. In March of 2024, additional remains of Ofer were returned to Israel for burial.
Well, under the ceasefire terms, Hamas released all living hostages in return for nearly 2,000 Palestinian convicts and wartime detainees, while Israel pulled back its troops and halted its offensive. The U.S.-backed ceasefire agreement went into effect on October 10th, halting 2 years of conflict triggered by deadly Hamas-led attacks on Israel on October 7th, 2023. And U.S. President Donald Trump heads to South Korea on Wednesday for his final leg of the Asia trip, with high-stakes meeting expected with Chinese President Xi Jinping and South Korea's Lee Jae-myung. Now, Trump is due to address a summit of CEOs and meet with Lee in Gyeongju. At the top of the agenda will be the unresolved trade agreement between the U.S. and South Korea. Also, the two allies announced a deal in August under which South Korea would avoid the worst of the tariffs by agreeing to pump $350 billion of new investments into the United States. But talks over the structure of those investments have been deadlocked, and officials from both the sides have said Trump and Lee are unlikely to finalize an agreement. Also, Trump has pressed allies like South Korea to pay more for defense, and South Korea has sought reforms to U.S. immigration laws to allow for more workers to build factories after a raid on a Hyundai motor. Meanwhile, North Korea has launched sea-to-surface cruise missiles off its western coast a day before U.S. President Donald Trump begins a visit to South Korea. According to the Korean Central News Agency, the missiles were fired vertically from the Yellow Sea and flew for more than 2 hours. The tests were overseen not by leader Kim Jong-un but by senior military official Park Jong-chon. His absence follows a similar omission in last week's report on the test firing of several hypersonic missiles. The U.S. president has expressed an openness to meeting with Kim on the sidelines while he visits South Korea, while Pyongyang has not publicly responded to Trump's offers. And at least 64 people died in Rio de Janeiro's most deadly police operation ever, which targeted a major gang days before the city hosts global event COP30. Now, the fierce clashes erupted when about 2,500 heavily armed officers, backed by armored vehicles, helicopters and drones, took part in the operation targeting Brazil's main drug trafficking gang in northern Rio. Police have often conducted large-scale operations against criminal groups ahead of major events in Rio, which hosted the 2016 Olympics, the 2024 G20 Summit and the BRICS Summit in July. But this was by far one of the deadliest. Also next week, Rio will host the C40 Global Summit of Mayors tackling climate change in Prince William's Earthshot Prize. The U.S. Senate has voted 52-48 to terminate former President Donald Trump's tariffs against Brazil, with 5 Republicans joining Democrats in rare bipartisan support. Now, the measure challenges Trump's national emergency declaration issued after Brazil prosecuted ex-President Jair Bolsonaro for an alleged coup attempt. But the victory may be short-lived. House of Republicans are expected to shelve the bill, blocking its progress. Senate Democrats slammed Trump's tariff policy, accusing it of driving up the cost of food, clothing and energy for American families. And Colombian President Gustavo Petro accused the United States of using its military campaign against drug trafficking as a pretext for invasion. Now, speaking during an official visit to Saudi Arabia, Petro criticized U.S. attacks on vessels allegedly transporting cocaine, saying recent strikes in the Caribbean and Pacific appear aimed at seizing control of Latin American oil rather than combating narcotics.
There is no need to fire missiles. It's absolutely ineffective. And this action doesn't seem to be really aimed at seizing cocaine, but rather at an invasion, which is also absurdly illegal and has more of an objective oil than defending American society from illicit drugs.
Well, the remarks came as U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced on Tuesday that a series of strikes against suspected truck vessels in the Eastern Pacific killed 14 alleged traffickers and left one survivor, the latest operation in President Donald Trump's counter-drug campaign. Now, the Pacific strikes are part of a broader U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean that includes guided missile destroyers, F-35 fighter jets, a nuclear submarine, and thousands of troops. The Fort Carrier Strike Group is expected to reach the Caribbean in the coming weeks. At least 10 strikes have been conducted in the Caribbean and Pacific since early September, raising tensions with Venezuela and Colombia. Trump has also authorized the CIA to conduct covert operations in Venezuela. And Republican and Democratic leaders in Congress continue to trade barbs and accusations while remaining far from breaking a shutdown impasse that has now stretched to 4 weeks. A coalition of Democratic-led states filed a lawsuit on Tuesday to stop President Donald Trump's administration from suspending food aid benefits starting on November 1st amid the ongoing U.S. government shutdown. Attorney General and governors from 25 states and the District of Columbia filed the lawsuit in Boston federal court after the U.S. Department of Agriculture said it would not use $6 billion in contingency funds to pay for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, also known as food stamps. The Democrats said they will not vote to resume federal funding unless Congress also addresses subsidies for 24 million Americans due to expire at the end of the calendar year. While Republicans said Congress first must pass a temporary spending bill that would allow the government to at least reopen. And Pakistan has said that the negotiations for a lasting truce with Afghanistan had failed to bring about a workable solution, warning it would take steps to protect its people. The Istanbul talks aim to secure peace after the South Asian neighbors' deadliest border clashes in years, which erupted following explosions in Kabul on October 9th that the Taliban authorities blamed on Pakistan. Now, relations between the one-time allies have soured in recent years over accusations from Islamabad that Afghanistan harbors militant groups which stage attacks in Pakistan. After an initial 48-hour ceasefire lapsed, a second truce emerged on October 19th following talks in Doha. And still to come in this edition of DT India Live. President Draupadi Murmu to take Rafale fighter jet sortie at Ambala Air Base amid tight security today. The 5-match T20 International Series between the world's top two sides, India and Australia, set to begin in Canberra today. And World Stroke Day, observed on 29th of October every year, highlights importance of quick action and healthy living to prevent brain attacks.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar.
It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DT India Live. I'm Vipakshi Khurana, and moving on under the theme Uniting Oceans, One Maritime Vision. India Maritime Week 2025 is underway in Mumbai from 27th to 31st of October. Hosted by the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, IMW 2025 is said to be the world's largest maritime gathering, bringing together key stakeholders from across the global maritime ecosystem. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the Leaders Conclave and the Global Maritime CEO Forum during the event.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Mumbai on Wednesday to address the Maritime Leaders Conclave and chair the Global Maritime CEO Forum at the India Maritime Week 2025. The Global Maritime CEO Forum will bring together CEOs of global maritime companies, major investors, policymakers, innovators, and international partners to deliberate on the future of the global maritime ecosystem. The Netherlands Minister of Infrastructure and Water Management, Robert Tiemann, who will be part of the CEO Forum, spoke to DD India about strengthening bilateral cooperation between India and the Netherlands in maritime and water management.
Memorandum of understanding, different types of topics are on there. For example, the training of the maritime professionals, but also table topics like the water quality, topics like the maritime agenda to manufacture vessels.
The Prime Minister's presence reaffirms his vision for a progressive maritime transformation aligned with the Maritime Vision 2047, with over 350 international speakers. India Maritime Week 2025 is said to be a hub of industry expertise and strategic dialogue. The event will witness the signing of more than 600 memorandum of understanding, amounting to investment commitments exceeding 10 lakh crore rupees. The 5-day event brings together over 1 lakh participants from 85 countries, including 500 exhibitors, 350 speakers, and 12 concurrent conferences and exhibitions. India Maritime Week 2025 showcases the country's maritime resurgence and its vision to transform the nation into a global maritime leader by 2047.
India Maritime Week brings together policy, community, technology and business under one roof, shaping blue economy's future. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's participation underscores his commitment to the vision of Maritime Vision 2047. With camera person Kapil Maske, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
And President Draupadi Murmu will take a sortie in Rafale fighter jet in Haryana's Ambala on Wednesday. Massive security arrangements are in place in view of a visit to the Ambala Air Base, which is one of the crucial operational air bases of the Indian Air Force. On April 8, 2023, the President took a sortie in a Sukhoi 30 MKI fighter aircraft at the Tazpur Air Force Station, Assam. In September 2020, the fourth generation and most advanced Rafale jets were inducted into the IAF at Ambala Air Base. The jets were also used during Operation Sindoor, the military operation carried by India against Pakistan following the Pahalgam terrorist attack. And India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has concluded his visit to Brussels, describing it as filled with intense but very productive engagements with Miroslav Šefčovič, EU Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security, on advancing a comprehensive India-EU free trade agreement. He said the talks have significantly reduced outstanding issues and created a framework that can deliver a win-win outcome for both the economies.
I believe the ongoing India-EU FTA negotiations has given us an opportunity to really create the framework which will help us in the long run bring our two economies closer together, integrate them into a relationship which will be a win-win for European Union and for India. The intense engagements that we've had have significantly reduced the outstanding issues between EU and India.
Well, commending the negotiation teams for their efforts, Union Minister Piyush Goyal said he looks forward to welcoming Šefčovič and the EU team again soon to work towards concluding the dialogue. Well, Goel's Brussels visit pushes India-EU FTA talks forward, narrowing gaps and advancing a balanced trade pact focused on market access, innovation, investment and shared economic growth. And moving on, severe cyclonic storm Monta weakened into a cyclonic storm over coastal Andhra Pradesh. The cyclone is likely to move nearly northwestwards across coastal Andhra Pradesh and maintain its intensity of cyclonic storm during the next 6 hours and weaken further into a deep depression during subsequent 6 hours. Now, the latest observations indicate that the rear sector of the cyclonic storm Monta entered into the land. The system is currently being monitored continuously by Doppler weather radar at Machilipatnam and Visakhapatnam. In addition to coastal observatories, the cyclone will likely move nearly northeastwards across East Central Arabian Sea for the next 36 hours. Also, Cyclone Monta made landfall on Tuesday, crossing the Andhra Pradesh coast. Continuous rainfall have lashed Odisha and Andhra Pradesh due to the impact of Cyclone Monta. Patrapur received the highest rainfall of more than 117 millimeters. Due to the constant rainfall, about 5,200 people have been evacuated in the district. Chief Minister of Odisha also reviewed the cyclone situation at State Control Room to review the arising situations. And on to some sports news now. The 5-match T20 international series between the world's top two sides, India and Australia, is set to begin in Canberra today. India will look for redemption under their captaincy of T20 skipper Suryakumar Yadav after loss of ODI series. The return of Jasprit Bumrah, rested during the ODIs, provides a huge boost to India's bowling attack. The Aussies have reinvented their approach under captain Mitchell Marsh. They have lost just 2 of their last 20 T20 internationals thanks to the firepower batters like Travis Head. However, with Adam Zampa unavailable due to personal reasons, left-arm spinner Matthew Gohenman has a golden opportunity to make his mark. With the T20 World Cup just months away, every match, every experiment and every performance will matter. Well, in the blink of an eye, a stroke or a brain attack can change everything: speech, memory, movement. But the power to prevent a stroke lies in our own hands. October 29th is observed as the World Stroke Day. Preeti Kaur in the report ahead explores the dangers of a brain stroke and how to prevent it.
A stroke is a medical emergency that happens when something prevents the brain from getting enough blood flow. A blocked blood vessel or bleeding in your brain can cause strokes. At times, strokes are also referred to as cerebrovascular accidents or brain attacks. Ischemic strokes usually happen because a blood clot blocks a blood vessel connected to your brain. Hemorrhagic strokes happen when a blood vessel in your brain breaks or tears. One of the most effective tools for stroke awareness is the FAST method: face drooping or paralysis in the face. Also, one side of the mouth may droop when trying to smile. Numbness or weakness in arms and difficulty in raising the arm. Trouble speaking and understanding what others are saying. A person having a stroke may be confused, slur words, or may not be able to understand speech. Acting quickly when these signs appear can reduce brain damage and save lives. World Stroke Day is observed every year on 29th of October. The theme this year, Every Minute Counts, emphasizes on the critical importance of acting fast to recognize stroke symptoms and get immediate medical treatment. To prevent a stroke, one should focus on managing medical conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes and adopt a healthier lifestyle, exercise regularly, maintain a healthy weight, quit smoking, and limit the intake of alcohol. Having a stroke can be a sudden, life-changing event. But remember, recovery is hard work, but it is worth it. Preeti Kaur, DD India.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, we can get all the latest news and updates from India across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.